get started. Okay. Notice of hereby giving of a special meeting of the Brookshire Economic Development Corporation to be held Monday, July 15th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers of the Brookshire Municipal Building, 4029 5th Street, Brookshire, Texas, for the purpose of considering the following agenda. So we can call to order. We can do a roll call.
Director Eric Green.
Present.
Director Nathaniel Richardson.
Here.
Director Portia Dunn.
Present.
Director Robert Richards.
Present.
Director Steve Guy.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, can we have a prayer? Mr. Green?
Father God, we say thank you for another day you allowed us to see, Lord, and we thank you for the gathering of this economic development board members and citizens, Lord, and we ask that you help us to make all the right decisions that would be pleasing in your sight for the betterment of this community. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the public comments, each speaker will be limited to 15 minutes. We have Mr. Mike Barnes, speaker.
15.
5 minutes.
Says 50, oh, I'm sorry, 5 minutes.
Testing, is that on? I don't know if it's on or not. You all can hear me if it's not anyway.
It's on.
It's on? Okay, thank you. First of all, let me say thank you for the opportunity to express my 15 minutes.
5 minutes.
You give a consultant 15 minutes and run into at least an hour. I, through a series of public information requests, have discovered a lot of things about this community that I really didn't know. One of which is that its economic development activity lacked direction and didn't have the kind of leadership that it deserved. And I just wanted to, this is an award that I'd like, with your consent, if you're serving as president, this you'll see is a TEDC award in a plaque that was given to the Brookshire EDC for work primarily done in '22. We were awarded, the EDC was awarded this plaque in October of '23. However, it was from work. The submission was in May of '23, which would have been under the previous or prior Hill Board of Directors. There are two of you, as I stand before you, that were members of that board at that time. With your consent, may I offer this to either Mr. Richardson and or Mr. Green? But if that's, I also wanted to share with you that that's not the first award that we've received from TEDC. We also received any number of awards. I think Ms. Casto could verify that at TEDC annual conference, I asked her to join me on stage to receive an award back in 2021. But according to a lot of the information that seems to be going around, there was no oversight and so forth. Now, I see on your agenda you've got reference to Crystal Lakes. I'm very interested in hearing that update. To the best of my knowledge, Crystal Lakes is a residential subdivision. I'm not nearly as well versed, no doubt, as council with an S, but Type B economic development corporations only engage in low to moderate income housing situations. And I don't really know. You please check it. I think you'll find me correct. I recall seeing that reference to that TIF or TERS when I was the interim city administrator, and could find no record of it having been passed by council, and nor could I find any record of it being passed by the other taxing entities, which normally a TIF and/or TERS is done. Now, I had these conversations with previous council members, nobody that's sitting on this table that's on the council, and I made the attorney aware of that and asked for an opinion and never did receive that. I'm equally excited to hear the update on Empire West. I think of myself as marginally familiar with Empire West in that we negotiated, and hopefully Mr. Richardson and/or Mr. Green could confirm this, the initial incentives to serve as a catalyst for that development, and then subsequently went back and negotiated any number of incentives with specific companies. Now, through my discovery in a PIR, I found that there's some questions about how things got filed. I brought a couple of concerns to the attention of the attorney.
Your time is almost up.
Okay.
One
My
more
3
minute.
or 5?
1 more minute.
Well,
Okay.
suffice it to say that filing is not the responsibility of the consultant. That goes to the city secretary and the attorney. No strategic plan. There are at least 2 members of this board, 1 member and 1 carryover, that were presented a community assessment in, I think, maybe August of '22. I have provided information to some of you showing that as far back as 2014, we proposed, as the request of a council member, to do a full strategic plan and enlisted the support of one of the best planning companies in the country.
Your time is up, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can use that award.
Okay, next agenda item. Discussion and approve minutes of the Brookshire Economic Development Corporation special meeting for June 18th, 2024. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's passed. Next agenda item. Discussion and consider nominations for open board positions 3 for the EDC board to be sent to city council for approval.
So are we down 2? Are we down,
I
I'm
thought it was
confused.
2.
We need 2 positions now?
Okay,
Yes,
let me say what I've got. Stephen Guy, Nathaniel Richardson, Kathy Guy, I think needs to be replaced, and I think that's for position 3. Quotatius Dunn, Eric Green, Robert Richards, and a vacant.
That's
Correct,
2
correct.
vacancies.
Correct, so 2 vacancies. Right, okay. So, right now we're listed to just do place 3. I've got a resolution ready that I'm gonna eventually put to council that has all of your names, your position, and then the term, end date. So I'd like to, y'all pick your 2 that you'd like to make if you wanna, go ahead and nominate 2 people. And then I do wanna talk about their places so that I make sure I have it right, getting it presented to council.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
Can she run again, or is she out?
No, she can go again. You guys can nominate her
Okay.
again. It'll be ultimately up to council. You all will make your recommendation to council.
Well, I
You've got 2
nominate
positions to
Kathy.
fill. Go ahead.
I nominate Kathy Guy. Second.
So I'll recommend, go ahead and take your vote on 1, and then if you have your next nominee ready, you can do that with your next motion.
I oppose.
So you've got a motion and a second, right? You got a second? Okay. You'll go ahead and call for a vote and then record the votes.
Okay. Here we have a vote.
So in favor.
In favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Kathy, you get to vote.
Oh, I get to
Kathy?
vote?
Yes.
Aye.
She's
Okay.
not on the board. She
I'm
don't
not
get
on
to
the,
vote.
You,
I do
she,
get to,
she is still on the board.
I'm carryover.
Yeah,
No.
she's carrying over.
Her term expired June 30th.
Of this year.
Correct.
And we're 3 and 3 split? Right
I
now?
don't think we were.
Madam,
It's 3 and
I
2
mean,
if I'm not.
Madam Attorney, when were we gonna have a discussion before the vote?
Oh, okay. Well, you guys can, okay, yeah. Do
I
you
mean,
want
we
to
should have had
discuss?
a discussion. And I met these people a long time, and these are decent people. But as a 40-something-year citizen of Brookshire, I get tired of hearing Brookshire beat up by social media cowards. I think even though it may be legal, I don't think it's good PR, because people will take that and maybe run a good customer off with the PR stuff that they put out there. I don't think I ever met Mrs. Guy. I met him on his property several years ago. And I said, I am so glad that there are people willing to come to Brookshire and invest in Brookshire. But as a long-time educator in this community, I get tired of hearing the negative stuff from naysayers and all of that. So that perception to me then becomes the truth. So I think our open concept is, let's not go down that same road right now. And maybe I'm not the person to sit in this seat, because I'm not voting against that, but I think when you have a husband and wife in a position to vote, that taints whatever happened. We have enough craziness going on in the United States of America, which he's a very proud person. I'm glad I'm an American citizen. Let's look at that. And that might be the nominee. Mrs. Guy might be the nominee, might be the best person. But I think we need to table that and talk about that. Is this the way we want to continue to go? We're a small community, guys, and I get tired of hearing negative stuff about this community. I've educated probably over 8,000 to 9,000 kids. And these are not bad kids. This is not a bad community. But when we allow outside rhetoric to taint what goes on, that's the thing I want to get away from. And maybe I'm not the guy for this seat.
Is there any more discussion on
Now,
this
I
one?
want to clarify one thing with you, though. Ms. Guy term ended on June 24th. Is that correct?
That's
June
what I'm
30th,
told.
June 30th. Okay, so you don't know?
So
or
if you
do know?
can, so yeah, if her term ended on the 2024, it's written here as updated. So I saw June 30th, 2026.
Right.
So even her vote not counting, if we go the most conservative route, I believe it was still 3-2 to put her on the board. You were yay, Councilmember Green, and yay, Mr. Guy.
Is that correct?
So that would,
Quotation?
feel free to recall the vote. That's just what I saw.
And it's not illegal, it's not,
Not illegal.
Okay.
Did I have those votes right, though? Yay, yay, and yay.
Yes.
Okay. So 3-2, it passes. So that's one of your positions is Ms. Guy.
Okay.
So there is a second if you'd like to
Yes.
nominate
I'd
someone.
like to nominate someone. Her name is Maria Uger-Tekcher. And here's the correct spelling of her name. It's at the bottom down there.
Okay, sorry. We've only got open board position place 3 noticed. So I think we need to hold off on filling our final position. I'm sorry about that. I misled just now. But reading this item, it is only for position 3. So that's Ms. Guy.
Oh, she's not here.
And so we'll put it on the next meeting to get your 7th filled if you've got somebody.
So can you give me the spelling of that last name person that you had recommended? Oh. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Next item, Filling the vacancies of offices of President, Vice President, Secretary, and Treasurer. PDC Board.
And if I may jump in before this one too, I've got the bylaws, and for the offices, for the officers, we only have it's listed a little differently on the agenda. We have a president, a vice president, and then a secretary slash treasurer. So tonight you all could appoint someone to each of those. It won't be a secretary and then a separate treasurer. Those would be one position if you'd like to nominate someone.
I'll
to
make a motion to table until we get the final position filled.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry, what, I didn't see all the votes. Aye.
Any discussion?
Yeah, you should have the
So it-
discussion vote.
Yeah, so before we vote, we'll
That's
do
fine.
discussion.
We need to start having a discussion before we vote, guys.
Yeah.
Unless we're not gonna follow Robert's rules, we can do it in the
Yes,
way you
sir.
guys want to, but if we're gonna, I don't want people to record this and start talking about it. They don't even know how to operate a meeting. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Well, it's past practice.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My mind's kind of all over the place right now. We really need to fill the positions. Even if we don't fill all the positions, we're barely even having meetings. I don't know who this next board member is going to be. And that may not even be approved by council. And if that doesn't get approved by council, we're still back at square one without these positions being filled. That's all I have to say.
Okay, so what I saw was a motion, a second, and a vote that was split. So are you done with this item?
What-
You saw
Are we tabling? What are we doing? I'm lost. Are we tabling the,
you saw a motion, a second.
I saw a motion and a second and then a split vote.
Aye. She said aye.
Aye. Oh, okay. And if we're not letting Kathy vote
That's
for
right.
this one, I understand. Okay.
so we're tabling it?
So y'all are tabled? Yep,
Yeah.
on this item.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda. Discussion and update on Crystal Lakes and Empire West. Mr. Joe Ish.
Good evening, board members. So I was asked to give an update on the TERS. So information is hard to come by. What I've been able to find so far is that TERS was created in 2006. In 2007, the council adopted a project plan and plan of finance. They held a public hearing supposedly in August of 2007, and then nothing shows up until 2015, when the TERS was reactivated, and a development agreement was approved with a project plan and plan of finance. There's a lot of information that's missing in this conversation at this point. The next information that comes out in April of 2019, a letter from Robert Chambers to the city secretary to pay a certain amount of funds to LGI Homes. The letter from that's subsequent to a letter from LGI Homes in February of that year to the city secretary that highlights their project plan and plan of finance, the city's obligation, a notice of it that they commenced construction of approved infrastructure in May of 2016 and completed it in June of 2017. It also goes on to say that they noticed the city was in default of their obligations to appoint a board and a chair, and that they had not been able to work with anyone to get reimbursement for the TERS improvements because there was not the ability to work with the city on the board, and if they did not get some response, then they were going to pursue their other remedies. Still looking for information to fill this in. So what you have is that you have a public record that shows that TERS was first created in 2006. It expired, supposedly would expire by 2027. In 2015, that TERS was modified for the home development, and it had a list of projects to include in that. The TERS life was extended to 2035 for 20 years, and that there were expectations that the developer would put certain improvements in place and receive reimbursement. Reimbursement to be based off of the increment. In that, it also stated in the original project plan, or excuse me, original ordinance, that there's 9 members on the board. The city reserved the first 6 for its appointment. 9, the last 3, were for the other taxing jurisdictions should they participate. They had to notice the city by January 7th of 2007 if they chose to appoint someone. If they didn't, they voided their right to appoint someone to the board, and the city would then reserve the right to appoint those individuals. City appoints the chair. At this point, we cannot find, have not been able to identify any records, and this is the city, not the development corporation. This is the city that's undertaking this effort. We cannot find that there is a board appointed. We cannot find a record that the state is familiar with this. So there's information that we're still trying to garner at this point. So it's still ongoing. The information I've given you is partial. We don't know at this point what the full total obligations are. It is clear that the developer has expectations that they have completed certain infrastructure and that they have certain reimbursement. It is clear that they have been reimbursed. At this point, have not been able to tell you how much they've been reimbursed to this point. The development agreement also talks about that once the improvements are made, that there is an acceptance by the city. The letter from 2019 to the city from the developer indicates that the city had accepted those improvements and that they are now the city's. So there's bits and pieces of information. It says the TERS exists. It says they have obligations, but we're still trying to get more information to fill this out. So it's difficult when the records apparently have not been able to be found. Trying to work with the city staff to make sure we can fill in what we can, and we'll work with the developer. It's still in process. So in summary, that's where we sit with the TERS.
I have a question.
Please, sir.
So you're speaking of Crystal Lakes, right?
Yes, sir.
So basically, you have no additional information than what you had when you first came here
That's not true.
concerning Crystal Lakes.
That's not true.
What do you have different?
What I just, last time I was in front of you, I did not have that information.
I thought I heard the same thing.
Okay.
Okay. I'll have to go back and look at the meeting, but I'm sure I heard the same thing.
Well,
What
I
do
did
you
not have that
do you
information.
have,
so last
what
time
is
I
your
was here.
plan moving forward to resolve the issue? Because as I understand, that was the reason that you were hired, right? An emergency basis? Crystal Lakes and Empire West, is that correct? What is your plan moving forward
Well,
for
sir,
Crystal
I'm doing
Lakes?
what I'm continuing to. I cannot, first off, the information that we're gathering comes from y'all. I can't get it from thin air. So I'm trying to gather information to provide a path to you on moving forward. At this point, I don't have a complete picture to tell you which way to go. What I'm trying to do, one of the information I'm going to do is find out how much the city has paid, the basis for that payment up today, what's still outstanding, and confirm the obligations that the city still maintains. Those things are still in process. That relies upon, let's understand each other. This is information that's a failing of the city over many years to do its job in maintaining a TERS. I'm trying to help y'all get information so that you can correct problems at the city. I will not be correcting those pieces of information. I'll be providing information for the city to take action on its TERS.
I understand that. When do you think that you will have an estimated date of completion on what you just mentioned?
So I'm working as quickly as I can to get that information. And that's relied upon the city to be able to provide that information and to be able to find it. I don't have access to all the records.
Mr. President, may I ask a question? Ms. Edge,
Sir.
not trying to put you on the spot, so.
Please do.
No, that's not what I'm here for. You're new to this position.
Sir.
You didn't have a certain amount of information. And I know the city, the time I sit on this board, was doing things with computers. Where's the hard drive for that information? Now, that's the question we need to be asking those people sitting in those seats, regardless who it is. If it's my sister, I ask you that question. Where is the hard drive? And if you gave the computers away, No one does that without cleaning their hard drive or taking the information off the hard drive. And how the city pays their bills got to be documented. Everybody knows it. It got to be documented somewhere so we can follow the paper trail where the money is.
I agree with you.
None of us in here are idiots.
I agree with you 100%.
Here's what I would expect. That you would go and get with the developer, if they're still around.
They are.
Go check with the comptroller in the county and whoever that is, and try to get the issue resolved.
Sure, that's what we're
Because
doing.
the people that are here, that were here to see, they're no longer here. Administrative changes, all types of problems. But there's a way to resolve it. Or you come back and tell us that you've done all these things and there's no way to resolve it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Have you checked with the developer yet?
No, sir. Started with the information with the city. That's where we
Have
started.
you got with the comptroller, anybody in Hempstead County, Waller County, anybody yet?
Yes.
Okay, so you did that part. Okay, so now you need to go check with the developer and find out if the problem can be resolved or if there'll be a fee or fine or something that the city of Brookshire can do to get this resolved.
Well, what I'm looking for right now, sir, is there the process to make sure that the process was done correctly. There are things from the public hearings. We want to make sure that we've perfected that the process was done correctly, because there have been so many errors on the city's part over this time frame that I don't even know if they created the TERS properly. And so I'm still looking to validate whether or not they've done what they're supposed to do. In the instance, they've also have a development agreement with the developer where they've created certain obligations. So we're trying to do all of that. With respect to Empire West, which is the other section of this, and you asked about that, reached out to the CAD. As you know, the CAD has refused to forward the agreement that was entered into with Ferguson to the state. So the first thing it did was try to work with the chief appraiser. Reached out and said, listen, whatever the past, trying to find out where we sit, would you like to meet? Was not able to meet, has some health issues in the family, and said, not able to meet. So what took a look at it and said, based on where we're at, folks here at the CAD said, this is not an agreement that I can forward. This is not something that I can provide to the comptroller. City says, we've done this correctly, we follow the process. Well, what are we both arguing about? A fact case with the state, the comptroller. To your point, sir, I reached out to the comptroller's office and worked with them, and they said, here's the issue. I don't want to blame anybody. What I want to do is find out, it's either fish or fowl. We've either done what we're supposed to do, and we've provided an agreement that should be forwarded to the state by the CAD and the appraiser's office, or we haven't. If there are things that need to change in that agreement, state helps figure out what those are. If there's things that we have done what we're supposed to do and the CAD is not forwarding it, then help us find that out so we can go back to CAD. So the resolution of that issue is in the comptroller's office right now, and they're working through the documents that I provided them to say, fish or fowl, what needs to happen. So I would anticipate by the next time you have a meeting that we will have resolution to that issue, because I put it in front of the people that we're arguing about. It's a fact case. It either meets their test or it doesn't. So we provide that information to them to move that forward.
According to Justin from the last meeting, this should be pretty much simple issue.
Agreed.
Okay, to resolve, because the comptroller did not like the way the paperwork was filled out.
No, not the
Okay.
comptroller, sir, the chief
Whoever it
appraiser.
was. They didn't like it, okay? So I would expect that you would go get with those particular people and work it out, find out what they didn't like, see if we can get it corrected now, see if there's any penalties, anything like that, and then come back to us with a resolution.
So what I did, sir, first off, the email chain that started over a year ago, it was in February of 2023. There were several meetings that the city had with the chief appraiser. Then provided a list of things back and forth. And that's where it was. One side was saying, we believe we've done it correctly. The chief appraiser said, I don't believe you have. So I reached out to the chief appraiser, just as you asked, and said, listen, I would like to find what the issues are. Let's find a way to do it. Chief appraiser said, I'm not available. And so rather than wait, because just as you indicated, we wanted to get this resolved, I took the step of going to the state and said, listen, there's no reason to argue about this. Let's find, if we're both saying that we've done what we're supposed to, and the arbiter of that is the state, let's go to the state and find out what it is. And so I took that direct step to make that happen.
Okay, great.
This is a question for maybe Erica? Has anyone reached out to Mr. Chambers? Ms. Ward, are y'all getting anywhere with Mr. Chairman? Yes. Okay.
I have another question for Ms. Beagle. Is this the only outstanding issues? Do we have any 380 problems, any other, are these the only two outstanding issues from before?
I'm not gonna know the answer to that. Do we have any we know about right now?
Because someone had mentioned the rice dryer, a 380 agreement or something. Can you find out, please?
I will.
Okay.
That's your question, sir?
Anybody else? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Okay, item number 11, flock safety camera project for Brookshire PD. Well, I have 11 here, right? Number
We're
11.
on 10.
10, okay.
Discussion of the
Oh, I'm
24
sorry.
budget and
I'm sorry.
budget.
Discussion of 2024-2025 budget and anticipated projects. My error, I apologize. So, the budget's coming up, and it's Erica and Jennifer, are you all gonna work with EDC for the 2024-2025 budget? As I understand in the past, EDC would do their own budget and then submit it to the city. Is that correct? Is that gonna be the same process this time? When is the deadline? For the very first deadline for what's due? Right, right. And I have a question concerning the budget. I had asked for item number 8 to be on here and it was removed. Could you tell me why item number 8 was removed? That was for the EDC funds, outstanding funds for EDC that should be reimbursed from the city, the payments to the EDC board from the city. Okay, and that approval went through the proper procedures for EDC expenditures, right? Is that correct? Okay. You concur with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. President, what part would we have in deciding what items need to be put on that budget workshop agenda so we can have some good conversation? My concern is that you call me on my cell phone. My cell phone is not up for somebody to call me and say, I want to know everything on Mr. Richardson's cell phone. I need another mechanism by which EDC can reach out to me. Because from now on, if you call me, I'm not going to answer. Because people in this community play a lot of electronic games with one another. And I'm not about that. I'm here to do a job and not that. So either I'm going to need an iPad or a cell phone that is mainly for EDC business, not for Richardson business.
Okay. So that's something we can talk about and discuss.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all. I just want to know, can we put that as an item so as they begin to build a proposed budget, that those things are included? It could be voted down.
Right, well,
But at least we can't say we didn't talk about it.
So we could just add a future agenda items to the end of every agenda, and then during that item, you guys can make your additions. Does that work?
Vicky's at the note end over there.
I can't answer that. That's come from you guys that do this every day.
Is your question how to get something onto the agenda?
For the budget workshop that is coming up for 24, 25, to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
those items are included, whether they're approved or not, but let's be able to talk about them anyway.
Right.
Yeah, and I think this item was added on there actually for discussion about the budget process of the city side, are they gonna do the budget for EDC, or is EDC gonna do the budget as they traditionally did in the past? So this was just a discussion item. So now we can table it and go back and have some shops and talk about the planning moving forward for EDC. Is that good?
Thank you, sir.
Now, item number 11. Chief?
For budget.
Good evening, y'all.
Good evening.
Did you have a chance to read the email that I sent along with the quote? So I just thought that, taking advantage of new technologies out there and having some familiarity with flock cameras with other agencies and agencies I've worked at before, I think it's a very affordable investigative tool when it comes to taking advantage of technologies that are out there, and that I would approach EDC and having y'all take a look at it and seeing if that was something that you would be interested or consider funding for the police department. I said, the quote's attached. This evening, I have Mike Knight here, and he also has a guest, Jonathan. I know Mike is in California, so they couldn't be here, but they remoted in. And I'm sure that whenever we talk about flock cameras, and there are concerns because of the use of the license plate recognition technology, that some people have problems with Big Brother watching, and their privacy concerns. And these gentlemen here are to explain some more of the, I'm not intelligent enough to speak on some of the technical aspects of it, but they can answer your questions and concerns if there are concerns about privacy. But what I can tell you, and I want to give you a couple examples of how flock cameras work, and some of the cities that are around us. Fulshire, the city of Fulshire uses it, city of Katy. As you saw in my email, Waller is getting on board, the city of Waller, city of Hempstead. These cameras would be strategically placed around the city. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the interactive map. It's a pretty cool feature, and if you didn't get that, I can send it to each one of you individually, and you can actually go to Google Maps, click on where the camera is located, and it'll give you a street view of where those cameras will be positioned in the city and what kind of view you get on the street. The cameras capture images of a vehicle going by. Primarily, it's focusing in on the vehicle and the license plate, but it also does pick up on unique features on a vehicle. Like, let's say it's got a sticker on the back window, color, it's a pickup truck. You know, you can plug in different types of vehicle descriptions in there if you don't have a license plate. And if you know of a time frame of where you think a car may have gone, you can use these flock cameras. In May, we had a pretty significant evening in which we had a number of cars burglarized. We had auto theft over here at the apartment complex. They dumped it on 5th Street. Then they made their way over to the RV resort. They stole a Jeep. We were able to locate that vehicle in Katy, and with the information that we had, kind of narrow a search area and then recover it. We didn't recover it, but the city of Katy did. I was actually chasing a very fast Dodge Charger one day when I was in Simonton, when I worked for the constable's office, and they were going into Katy. I lost the guy, but within minutes, I called one of their units. He pulled up Flock, and he said, "Hey, is this the car?" He took a picture of it. I never got a license plate, but I said, "Yep, that's the car." And he said, "Well, it just rolled through our city," and they were picking it up on camera going into Houston. The recent homicide of the Harris County deputy that was killed in the line of duty last week, Flock was instrumental in the investigation and narrowing where that vehicle traveled throughout the Houston area, so they can narrow their focus to a certain area to find the suspect and the suspect vehicle. So that's kind of neat things that it does. Right now, we have to rely on other agencies whenever we want to see if we can develop any investigative information. We have to call our local agency and go, hey, can you check this vehicle in Flock and see if it went through your city, or does it belong in your city? You know, things like that. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike or Joe.
Before you give it to him, can we ask you a
Or Joe.
question?
Sir?
Before you go to them, can we ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, sorry. Sorry, Chairman. We are eventually going to do a public hearing, but I'd like to go ahead and hear from Flock first so that the people in the public can know what they're going to comment to us on, and then we'll discuss with Flock after.
Awesome.
Good.
Well, hopefully you all can hear me, and board members, thank you so much for the opportunity to present today. I'm Mike Knight. I am the Territory Sales Manager from Flock for Brookshire, and joined here by my colleague, Jonathan Paz. I wanted to just kind of take a quick note and provide some background. As Chief mentioned, we have been working very closely with Chief Hines on a proposal to share with you all in the hopes of funding an initial flock safety project. And what we'd like to do today is quickly run through and share a bit more about who Flock is, what we do, and really how others have used our system to solve and prevent crimes like retail theft, as well as non-residential burglaries. So on the aspect of really who Flock is, in the U.S., there is about 70% of all crimes committed have a vehicle associated to that crime. And of that 70%, only about 5% include actionable objective evidence about that vehicle that helps law enforcement generate leads which may help to an investigation. And really that's how Flock came to be. Back in 2016, our CEO's neighborhood just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, was really plagued by porch thieves and an eventual vehicle theft. When our CEO approached law enforcement asking, hey, what do you need to help solve this case? They kind of said, grainy Ring doorbell footage as well as surveillance footage really isn't helpful. But a picture of the vehicle and the license plate would be the really key objective evidence piece needed for an investigation. So really along with a couple of friends, he built out the first, what we call our Falcon license plate reading camera, captured the evidence needed, and the police were able to make an apprehension a few days later. Fast forwarding to today, what you see on the screen, we have over 70,000 cameras up across the nation in over 5,000 communities. This all kind of comes together to help solve 12% of all reported crime in the US. And that's really a number that we're extremely proud of. As for what we do, to illustrate, what Flock's license plate reading technology does, I just kind of wanted to share a brief analogy. So most businesses today have some sort of alarm system in place to help kind of protect their assets. And that includes sensors on every entry to the building, whether it be doors or windows. And that is really there to alert owners and law enforcement of any unwanted intruders. Flock can kind of be applied in the same simplistic way as a security system for the community and extending that detection system from the walls of a business out to the entry points of the city. So our alerting really comes in the form of sending a notification to law enforcement anytime a stolen vehicle or a wanted offender passes by a camera and enters the city. And really for a bit more of a detail on our Falcon cameras and what's included with Flock, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Jonathan, to take us into what exactly the Falcon cameras are.
Yeah. Hi again, board members. My name is Jonathan Paz. I'm part of the government affairs team. So this is exactly what we're talking about here. We're literally talking about pictures of the back of vehicles. So it's two things. Number one, it's a license plate. So the camera takes a picture of the license plate. And number two, it's the vehicular fingerprint, meaning like the color, the make of the car. Let's say that there's like maybe a big bump on it. Our system has machine learning technology that can help police be able to search through a system and say, hey, we're looking for a vehicle that fits this description. So it's infrastructure free. You don't have to put in wires down. It's 24/7 coverage. You get real-time alerts, meaning that if you have someone with a felony warrant coming into your district, or let's say you have an amber alert or a silver alert, it will proactively alert your police department. And it's ethically built, right? If you can go to the next slide. We take privacy very seriously. This is not facial recognition. We're not collecting biometric data. We don't own the data. That data is yours. And more importantly, this isn't going to be used for tracking speed or parking violations. Instead, we delete the data after 30 days if it's not being used. And again, it's for investigative purposes and making sure that there is some kind of proactive approach. So again, this is about gathering objective data. It's really the back of cars that we're taking pictures of to help support investigations, which can create a safe environment for commerce. It can make sure that you're actually providing that kind of safety and that trust, right? That business can happen in, let's say, a commercial district without, and if there is any kind of burglary or retail theft, it can be addressed head on. Next slide. So again, I mentioned a little bit of this. Next slide. I wanted to just quickly, I want to be brief, but and I'm happy to answer questions, but I wanted to talk about how this is a real force multiplier. When flock safety was implemented in Cobb County, they saw a 60% crime reduction with flock. So in 6 months after deploying the Falcon LPR cameras across the jurisdiction, they not only saw a 60% reduction in crime, they saw a 64% decrease in entering autos, 23% reduction in non-residential burglaries. You're basically tapping into a statewide network, a national network, and really a local network, and you're able to get data from other departments to make sure, because crime doesn't know borders, right? It can be multi-jurisdictional, it can be across many cities and towns. So you're really becoming part of a broader network and strengthening your ability to solve crime in real time. And yeah, in the second precinct, which was another high crime area, they saw a 35% reduction in entering autos and 40% reduction in robberies. And here we have a quick graph to show that table set, if you will. Next slide.
And just to kind of build on what Chief was mentioning as well, so part of Flock in general is we are able to allow communities to speak the same language. If there was a big residential or a non-residential burglary that happened in Katy, they can send the alert out to Waller, to Hempstead, to you all in Brookshire, and essentially say, hey, look, there's a vehicle of interest in this particular instance. You should be aware. Here's the reason why. And what you'll see on this slide is just a number of the different agencies in the area who are already Flock customers and helping to collaborate in that network effect. And I'll pass this back over to Jonathan.
Sorry, apologies. I think we switched up some slides here. But I did want to just answer these questions head on. I speak a little bit to how we protect privacy and the accountability mechanisms. So no one can just go into the system and just say, hey, I want to look at what my neighbor's doing, right? They need to have a search reason and use a number saved because we have an audit trail. So there is serious accountability mechanisms built in. Those are permanent. And as I mentioned, this isn't facial recognition software. We're not collecting biometric data. The footage is owned by the agency or city with this retention period of 30 days. But I wanted to mention that we don't use third-party databases. It's not connected to some registration data like the Carfax or DMV. We use state-of-the-art ASW, basically the same level of data storage as the FBI uses. And if you wanted to make sure to the public, that there's a real transparency involved in this, we can also publicize your LPR policy. So members of the public know exactly what you're using for, what is not prohibited uses, what other external organizations are using, are tapping into, let's say, your system, and which broader networks are you a part of, to really not only, show, but really you can also measure the return on investment, right? If you're able to apprehend certain stolen vehicles, that can also be showcased. So we want to make sure that this insights dashboard not only measures crime patterns, but also it can show you this audit search history to make sure that people are using this correctly. Um, and yeah, this is a real live example in Vallejo, California. There's a whole host of towns and cities across the country that publicize this because, again, transparency is important. Not only believing in the system, but also being transparent about the system you're implementing. Next slide.
And also, part of the benefit of Flock 2 is we are a subscription-based service, and we do so because we can handle everything from start to finish. So one additional benefit here is that we are constantly making updates to the system. One of these updates and a potential add-on on the back end that has helped other retail organizations and businesses across the nation is our analytics dashboard. So this is something that is outside of the realm of crime solving and crime prevention, but more of a business analytics tool for your specific economic development of the city in general. So tracking things like the number of vehicles that come in on any given day, the type of vehicle, whether that's a tour bus or a small sedan, and you get detailed vehicular information on an hour, day, week, or monthly basis. And the last piece here is really wanted to share a little bit more about how folks are actually curbing crime and solving crime within their communities. So in Morgan County in Georgia, there was a massive retail theft solved, and this was a collaboration across many jurisdictions. An issue that happened in one area was then tracked across multiple jurisdictions, allowing authorities to track that along the way and give police departments the heads up that there was vehicles of interest headed their way. Something that's a little bit more recent in Burleson and in Burleson, Texas, up by Dallas and Fort Worth, they based off of one flock hit, they were actually able to take down a criminal ring that was involved in a gift card scam that totaled upwards of $1 million. So I know that we are pretty much at time here, so I wanted to stop there and turn it back over to you all in case there are any questions.
Board, if I may recommend, let's withhold questions at this time. Let's open the public hearing, let them do their talking, and then we can discuss.
Thank you. Item number 12. Discussion and possible action regarding
It's 11-1 is where we're going.
11-1 public hearing?
Yes, sir?
Okay, I thought you just spoke on that. I thought you just spoke on that.
The public's got to talk on it,
Oh,
not
okay.
just our presenters.
Public hearing.
So that's
I'm sorry.
open, Vicky, at 6:55.
Public hearing
Yeah,
starts at
this is my first time doing it.
It's his first time.
Fine. Hey.
It's not my job.
When I learn the process and the rules, I'll move forward. When I learn the process and the rules, trust me, I won't
You're
wait
good.
there.
You got it.
So public hearing. Public hearing.
Take the time.
Time is 6:54 p.m.
President, members of the EDC, I know that a number of you have attended the EDC sales tax seminar. The flock may be great, and there's not a person in this room that doesn't want crime reduction. I think everybody would stipulate to that. This is a Type B Economic Development Corporation. Two of you were members of a board when I gave the workshop. I believe it was in your second month. Did we talk about buying equipment for the police departments? The Type B Economic Development Corporation is not an extension of the general fund. There are specific items that can be undertaken. Now, I know that in August of 23, that the law firm told you that it was okay to buy, remember that discussion? Football uniforms with EDC money? I objected to that, and you all, at that time as a board, voted against it because it didn't meet the guidelines. I would suggest that maybe this is in the same category. This is a city's general fund action. It's not an EDC action. Look at the regulations under the EDC. Did we ever, in any of these sales tax seminars, did they say we should be an extension of the general fund? Or that an EDC should be engaged in buying police department equipment? I am surprised this even made its way to an agenda, to be brutally candid with you. As surprised as I was when the school uniforms made its way to the agenda. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. And I was only saying that public hearing was before any of this other activity. That's all I was
I
trying to
apologize,
do.
my error.
It's not your
Sure.
error.
No, you did it right.
Item number 2. Now
But
can-
let me make sure there's no more public hearing.
Okay.
And close at, you gotta state the
Close at
time we close.
6:57. Now can we do questions?
Yes, sir?
I have a few. So, the software upgrade for this program, how long does the software last? What version of software are you using, and how long does it last?
The software would last the entire length of the contract, so that is part of the subscription.
What is the
So
length of
it's the term of your subscription, which is typically like 2 years, I think, for this one. Right, Mike?
Correct.
Yeah, and we make sure we maintain it, we update it, and yeah, we're responsible for maintaining the cameras.
how much fixed-in equipment is required? I know you mentioned cameras, but what are there any hard drives, dispatch console areas, equipment? What other fixed-in equipment is required?
No other equipment is required, just a connection to the internet.
Connection to the internet. And what about the extended service plan for the cameras? Are the cameras going to be city-owned, or is this all going to be your equipment owned by your company, or are you selling all this equipment to the city? And is there extended service plan for the equipment?
It would be all Flock-owned equipment, so we are responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of all equipment, so that way we can ensure the best quality of use.
So after the 2 years contract expires, you get to renegotiate the equipment, or you extend the service plan with the same equipment, or you give upgraded equipment?
Yeah, at the end of 2 years, we would reconfer with you all if you would like to renew the existing contract and go from there.
What's the life expectancy of the equipment?
I'm
You
sorry?
can speak a
The
little
life,
bit
the
louder.
life expectancy of the equipment.
The life the life expectancy, are you talking about like how long it would last on like a
Yeah,
a
well, you know,
charge, or-
electronics, they get outdated pretty fast. So what is the life
Oh, yeah.
expectancy of the cameras? 1 year, 2
Exactly.
years?
So that is the benefit of Flock in general. If we come out with new equipment, we will come out and reinstall it, and that's just part of the subscription as well.
No cost.
No cost.
Thank you.
I have a question. I thought I heard someone mention something about third-party information.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain that to me again?
Yeah. I'm happy to share. So what I wanted to emphasize is that the data is owned by you guys, but the data is stored in an AWS government cloud. So it's end-to-end encrypted. As I mentioned, we use an AWS government cloud, which is like the same security level as, like, let's say what the FBI uses to store records. We don't like sell the data to third parties. We don't need to go check with. This data is directly owned and maintained by Flock.
Okay.
Not owned, but maintained, excuse me.
Has there been any legal issues related to the use of this software?
Sorry, could you expand upon that? I'm not sure if I'm understanding.
When you first started to present it, the first thing I wrote down, are there any legal issues? Is it affordable, and is it timely Because then if all those things are in place, then it goes back to the user. So my question is, have there been any legal issues using Flock in any area that y'all have provided this service?
So we are we abide by state law. We have in the past, like, let's say, had some permitting issues, whereas maybe a jurisdiction, or we weren't aware that we couldn't, let's say, install a camera somewhere, let's say in a certain public right of way. So we try to do our best due diligence to make sure that we are not only abiding by local regulation, but also state regulation according to transportation. But absolutely, this is consistent with state law.
Who decides where the cameras go?
So I've been coordinating with Chief Hines to find the best areas. So taking into consideration the major entry points into the city, as well as any sort of, I guess you could say, trouble areas of the city as well that would want to be, or would need a heightened sense of monitoring.
I have a question for you. You done? I'm
I
sorry,
think
go
Mr. Green had a very viable question, simply because we are a majority district, and red flag goes up for those people. Immediately they think they're being targeted. So I believe this is a good thing, but I don't know whether it's a good thing that we need to move on tonight.
Well, I have a question for the chief, and also a question for Ms. Ward. How many police officers are you budgeted for the city of Brookshire? Positions.
When I started here, it was 22 positions.
So there's 22 budgeted.
Yes, sir.
How many are vacant? 4 vacant. Okay. And do you have a current officer sign-on bonus or retention bonus in place right now?
We do not.
You do not.
We've discussed opening that buck up again.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So question for Ms. Ward. How much have you reviewed this proposal? So you're aware of the costs. Is it budgeted for FY24? FY24. Is it budgeted for FY24? The new budget starts in October. 25 starts in October, right? FY25. Right. FY24 ends in September. The new budget starts in October for 25. Okay, so this project is not budgeted in FY24, is that correct? Okay. So, is there any other questions, Mr. Guy?
No.
I want to say this. I've never seen anything presented to EDC or City Council like this, in this manner. And what I mean by that, usually there's a presentation done with the company, and there's time for council to sit back and discuss to get a better understanding of it. But this was all done in one swoop. In a public hearing, and then action to approve or disapprove this project.
Can I step in on the process?
No, it's,
Oh,
Yes.
it's not budgeted.
We had discussed it. I just thought
There you go.
in my discussions with Flock and the funding aspect of it, and since it wasn't a budgeted item, that since they've worked with other municipalities before, and that's the funding source and the road that they took, I just thought that'd be a good way to help the city save money and it not being a budgeted item at this point. Because there's other things that we're going to be asking for in the budget as far as new projects and even some more long-term projects for the police department directly. And because it is modern and new technology, and it's a good investigative tool, I just thought this would be an avenue to bring it. And I certainly am not asking for anybody to make a decision on it tonight. In fact, Mike and I have discussed it, and not ever having gone before. I, too, am learning about EDC. This is my first meeting. I don't need y'all, I'm not asking for y'all to make a decision tonight, because Mike and I talked about it, and it's like, I just want to, if it's something that you want to think about and consider, then we will certainly have them travel down here with their group, and we can sit down and talk about it in future meetings. But I was just trying to get it presented, show y'all what I'm looking at.
Well, we
looking at for
appreciate
the police
that. I
department,
mean,
and then go on.
good technology is always good. And anything to make you all's jobs easier and it make the public safe is a good thing. I want to ask Ms. Beagle, have you confirmed that it is a project that could be done by EDC?
So that would be your all's executive decision. 505.158 in the local government code authorizes a Type B corporation with less than 20,000 people in the city to take a project that includes land, buildings, equipment, facilities, expenditures, targeted infrastructure, and improvements, key part right here, found by the corporation's board of directors to promote new or expanded business development. If this board thought that this project would promote new or expanded business development, you would make that finding, and then you would authorize this project. The project would go to council. It would have to be read by resolution twice. They would have to ultimately approve it. And I think there's a 60-day waiting period from the first notice given. So it's definitely not something we would swipe the credit card tonight, even if you approved it here.
Thank
And
you.
I can read that multiple times if you need me to.
No, I would just like to say to Chief Hine, don't be deterred bringing things before us because we're saying no, but that is, part of what we need to do. Learn to say no or say yes. And if it doesn't meet the litmus test, then let's find another way to fund it. I always believe in, and I'm a hard-head about it. When I was sitting on the school board, guys, when we make education decision first and not monetary decision first, then the kids win. Because when we put money ahead of what is good for kids and what we're talking about safety for our community, hey, let's find out a way to do it legally and pay for it. If that's the way that this board moves. So I don't have a problem with you bringing projects that may get kicked down, but don't take that personal because it can't be personal. Okay.
Any other discussion?
I don't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to note that the project, I believe, was previously approved by this corporation, or not?
No, they're considering it
No.
tonight.
Oh, okay. Apologies.
We've been working with the Hempstead EDC, and they decided to move ahead with the beginning stages of their project. So much as you just mentioned, the process was an approval to investigate into the project, then a public notice, then a 60-day waiting period, then council approval for the ultimate approval of the EDC funds, and then we would move ahead with procurement after that. So that's kind of where we are with the Hempstead EDC, is we are in that primary approval stage, waiting on the 60-day waiting period, and then going to city council after that. But they did also approve of this project initially through the Type B project, specifically as it pertains to quality of life improvements as well as public safety facilities.
Thank you. So we're getting ready to enter the budgeting process. So this is something that can be considered during that process. And also, I'd like to suggest to Mr. Hines that he could do some benchmarking with some of the other agencies to see if benchmarking. Call some other agencies. I think I seen the City of Houston on that list. Call some other agencies to check on the project and see if it's working. Because you remember they had that shot spider in Houston that they had for a long time, and it was ineffective, and they canceled it, you know, so do some benchmarking, if you would. Okay.
Do you need to open it up for a motion? I don't know,
Right.
you don't have to make one, just I wanna make sure if anybody wanted to make one, they have their opportunity.
No.
Okay.
Sorry, just wanna make sure.
No motion, right?
No.
All right, so number 12, discussing possible action regarding the strategic plan for EDC, and actually this one was put on there for discussion as well. It's the same question I have for city admin, so, and I think it's been answered. The EDC will do the EDC budget and also strategic plan, is that correct? Okay, and then submit over to the city. So this will be doing discussions for when the 2025 budget is discussed, and then the EDC plan, the strategic plan could be folded into that.
Thank you.
Thank you, I'm sorry, thank you all, I'm sorry, I should have thanked them for coming out.
I totally
Mr.
forgot
Hines,
to.
can you do it? Can you go back and thank them for, yeah, that was rude. All right, item number 13, discussion and possible action regarding drainage services. And I think I had sent some pictures to Ms. Milano. Right, there they are. So, discussion, as Mr. Richardson stated, I always do discussion, right? So discussion, during the day of this recent past storm barrel, okay, I went out at 7 a.m. in the morning after the storm had recently passed, and I took pictures of, I rode around the city, and I took many pictures of flooded areas of all over the city, okay? And basically, almost the entire city is flooded during that day. And I know it was a huge amount of rain came down in a short period of time. As you can see, all of the streets there, even the apartment complex down the street here, back by Stella Road, even here at the City Hall entrance over here is flooded all down here. Back here across the track, on this side of the track, back over by Royal School area, everything underwater there. So Brookshire has a drainage problem, okay, that's been going on for quite some time. The odd thing about this, the very next day, I got up and I went and I drove these same areas, and most of the water had drained. So the water is draining, but I noticed that it's draining very, very slow. And the reason why is because the ditches are not dug out. They're clogged up. Some of the culverts are clogged up. And so I went and spoke to some of the residents out that day, and they were very displeased. And they said this has been an ongoing problem for a long, long time. Okay, and I think this should be the utmost priority that we should have right now, is to take care of the community for this issue, you know, and others that affect their daily lives. So I would like to see, and I know we're moving forward to 2025 budget and the strategic plan, as this is a part of the project. And I think, Ms. Bigger, if you can correct me or not, the EDC can do drainage when there's a business on the street, or we can do drainage regardless if there's a business or not.
Generally, it's gonna be kind of the same standard I was just saying, it's gonna have to,
Yeah, if we
impact
can improve the
business.
community, yeah. I'm certain that businesses would not want to come to a city if they see this type of flood in the area. So this would definitely improve business attractive to the city. So I also did some research, and I understand that San Felipe had a drainage problem like this. They utilized grant works to find some grant money, and they were able to go in, dig out all their ditches, correct all the problem culverts, and if you go there during a storm like this, there is no flooding. The water drains perfectly. Okay, a lot of people they blame the drainage district, but we need to clean up here first before we can point fingers anywhere else. So I think this needs to be a #1 priority moving forward to get this done. The citizens want it done. They want it done, and they shouldn't have to live like this.
Mr. President, I stand corrected. It is an ongoing problem for the last 40 years. And it's not just by accident. It's systematically done. When you get the right people at the table, and it's gonna get worse because we're developing two big subdivisions right north of us. They're dumping the water intentionally on Brookshire because I feel that they figure you're not gonna say anything. But this has been an ongoing problem, and we need to bring the right people to the table and talk about this. How can we take care of this? This is not a first time thing.
No.
I'm lucky that I don't live in the city to see this because it happened year after year after year. And people say quietly, don't say anything, and this is what you get. You can't be afraid to speak up for what is right. And that's why I say I stand corrected. If I'm wrong, then I stand corrected. Say, Richardson, you're wrong. Okay, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But this has been over a 40-year problem. It didn't just start getting this way.
No. Let me say this. I remember 3 major floods. My mom's house flooded 3 times. Then I start watching where the water comes from. The water comes from up north. Water even flows from 529 all the way to Brookshire.
Right.
Water overflows out of the rice fields in Patterson and back part of Brookshire. We even drain water from in front of the school, Royal High School. 362, Royal Road, there's a ditch, and it goes right across that field and drains right into Stallnick Road. So we're draining all of that right toward Brookshire Gardens, the heaviest hit area. 2 ways water get out of Brookshire, and that's Brookshire Creek down Stallnick Road, or it detours going west. Then it has to fight to go through the trailer park, the mobile home park, just to get to Bessie's Creek. Now, I watched it again. I have videos from years ago. It's hard to get anything done through TxDOT because some of those ditches belong to them. Now, to get that water to actually flow effectively through the trailer park, we're going to have to work out something. Now, I know this could be an EDC project because it's the mobile home park and the rice dryer. It's right in between both of them. And there's a really small ditch and I think 2 24-inch culverts that's trying to drain all of that water back towards Betsy Creek. And if you drive down Gassner Road, you're going to see that one ditch going west, and that's where that water flows. Then the water flows in front of the on Gassner Road, going west on Gassner Road. Then the elevation shoots up. It can't even get around to that vacant field to drain down into that one ditch. Like Mr. Richardson said, and Mr. Richards said, this has been an ongoing problem for years. The city purchased Great All years ago, started cleaning the ditches out, but then you run into the issues of the culverts that've been clogged up for years. And then you got to pull the culverts out. You got to deal with driveways from the citizens. This is a huge project. It would definitely help if we had some grant money to help with this project. But I do remember when we hired Mr. King from Wallace, and he dug out some ditches in Brookshire Gardens. And as he started working his way back west, he stopped and he told us that we wasn't getting our money's worth because the project is actually bigger than what he can actually do, and it would cost us a lot of money. So he just stopped. And he pointed out the areas, the key areas where we need to target. We need to work from the outside and then work our way to the inside. Because when you go into the communities and just start cleaning out ditches, then you create pools. And then you have to know where the elevation is because you can actually deter the water to go the opposite direction where it's supposed to go when you just go and just start cleaning ditches like we've done in the past. Just to make the citizens feel like you're doing something, but you're actually making the problem worse rather than fixing the problem. You start from the outside and you work your way in. So there is no bottleneck and there is no pooling of the water. So I do know that it's been an ongoing problem, and we're definitely open for any suggestions.
Well, I have a suggestion. When I said that it's EDC project, I did not say it wasn't a city also project. And I think, and I don't know, Eric, if I asked to put that on the city council agenda or not, but it needs to be on there. And also, Ms. Ward, I would like to ask you about that $1.3 million grant that was awarded. As I understand, that was for drainage. Do you have an update on that? Okay, well, we would like to see an update each month with the city council on that project. Okay, because I think that project is for 4 streets, for the ditches to be dug out and the culverts to be redone for four particular streets. Is that correct? 5 streets, right? So there's a start. And EDC can do something, and then the city of Brookshire could do something budget-wise. And because we have to start somewhere. If we don't, this is only going to get worse, and people's houses are going to eventually start to flood and get damaged. Like I said, the next day, most of the water was gone. So something's draining, okay? And those ditches are many retention ponds to hold the water so it won't go in people's houses. So if we clean out the ditches and culverts, the low-hanging fruit, we can make a big difference, just like in San Felipe. It made a big difference.
Mr. President, may I ask a question, sir? Do we have a city engineer?
I'm just making sure y'all can hear me.
Do we have a
Yes.
city engineer?
You do.
Can I?
His name's Craig Calcamy, and he is with KJLJA.
I know Mr. Calcamy. Okay.
And can you confirm again the pieces that EDC could assist with this as far as a project for us?
Yes, so that's basically it would have to contribute to promotion of business. So drainage along a main corridor where there's a lot of commercial businesses.
It has to be around businesses.
Generally, yes, but we can talk about things. Could be future businesses, that kind of thing.
Jennifer, you said there was 5 streets? Are those streets chosen already, or?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Is she giving us the street names or no?
All right. So I don't think we need a motion.
Oh, no, I don't need them. I think I seen them from the last meeting.
We don't need a motion on this, right? It's just discussion or what?
This one's just
Just
discussion.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right. We have no executive session items, right?
So we're gonna talk
So-
about this in the workshop, is that what?
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna get an update on the $1.3 million grant monthly.
Mhm.
And then we're gonna talk about EDC projects for flooding as a priority. And during the budgeting process, we're gonna see what the city can do to help. Okay, moving forward to get this done. All right, so make a motion that we adjourn. Can I get a second?
Are we not doing
Second.
executive session?
No, exactly.
All in favor?